Over the past 24 hours, reports have emerged claiming that U.S. forces struck military targets in Venezuela, triggering explosions in and around Caracas. Videos circulated online, government statements followed, and conflicting claims began spreading fast. Some outlets report airstrikes on Venezuelan military facilities. Others say details are still unclear, disputed, or developing. So what actually happened? What do we know for certain? What is still claimed but unverified? And if air power was involved, how would an operation like this actually work? This is the full breakdown separating fact, claims, and military reality. According to multiple international news outlets, explosions were reported near Venezuelan military facilities late last night. Video footage shows fires and secondary explosions near what appear to be bases or infrastructure sites. Several reports say aircraft were heard overhead. U.S. officials have made statements claiming responsibility for a military operation targeting Venezuelan military assets. At the same time, Venezuelan officials dispute parts of these claims and say information is still being verified. This is important to understand. Some details are confirmed, explosions occurred, military sites were affected, and official statements were made. Other details are still claims, including the full scale of the operation and the exact sequence of events. This is a developing situation, and early reporting often changes as more evidence becomes available. In modern conflicts, information spreads faster than verification. Governments release statements. Media outlets rely on sources. Social media amplifies everything, accurate or not. In the first 24 hours of any military action, some claims are later confirmed, others are corrected or retracted, and some remain disputed indefinitely. That's why responsible coverage separates what is reported from what is proven. But even with limited confirmed details, one thing is clear. If U.S. air power was involved, this would not have been a random strike. If the United States conducts air operations against another country, it follows a very specific doctrine. Modern air campaigns do not begin with mass bombing. They begin with control. First comes intelligence, satellite surveillance, signals interception, mapping radar and air defenses. Next comes suppression of enemy air defenses, often called SEAD. That means targeting radar systems, disrupting command and control, blinding tracking networks. Only after that can strike aircraft operate with reduced risk. If aircraft were involved over Venezuela, they would likely avoid population centers, strike military infrastructure, operate at standoff range or with stealth support. Air power today is about denying the enemy the ability to respond, not destroying everything. Venezuela is not defenseless. It operates Russian-made air defense systems, long-range radar coverage, fighter aircraft capable of interception. That makes any air operation more complex, not less. This is why analysts say any strikes would be limited, targeted, designed to send a message rather than occupy territory. Air superiority is not about domination. It's about leverage. Right now, this story is still developing. Some claims may be confirmed. Others may change. And additional information will likely emerge in the coming days. What matters is understanding how modern military power actually works and how air power shapes events long before the public sees the full picture. This wasn't just about explosions. It was about control, signaling, and information. And as more facts come out, separating reality from rumor will matter more than ever. What makes this situation especially complex is that Venezuela exists at the crossroads of multiple strategic pressures. It is not just a regional actor. It is a state whose political alignment, energy resources, and military partnerships place it firmly within broader global competition. Any reported military action involving Venezuela cannot be understood in isolation. It must be analyzed within the context of signaling, deterrence, and long-term strategic posture. Historically, tensions between the United States and Venezuela have fluctuated between diplomatic standoffs, economic sanctions, covert pressure, and indirect confrontation. While direct military conflict has been rare, the possibility of limited, targeted action has always existed as a theoretical option rather than an immediate objective. This is why analysts emphasize that, if any operation occurred, it would almost certainly have been designed to shape behavior rather than trigger escalation. Modern military power is increasingly exercised through precision and restraint, not overwhelming force. The objective is rarely territorial control. Instead, it is influence-altering calculations, signaling capability, and imposing costs without crossing thresholds that force full-scale retaliation. In this framework, explosions alone tell us very little. What matters more is what systems were affected, how quickly events unfolded, and what messages were communicated before and after. One of the first questions military analysts ask is not what exploded, but what did not. Were civilian areas affected? Was critical national infrastructure disrupted? Were communication networks degraded? Was air traffic altered? These absences can be as informative as confirmed damage. A truly escalatory strike would create cascading effects across multiple sectors. A limited operation, by contrast, would appear contained, ambiguous, and controlled. Another critical factor is timing. Military actions rarely occur randomly. They often coincide with diplomatic events, economic pressure points, regional developments, or intelligence-driven windows of opportunity. Analysts closely examine what was happening politically and militarily in the days and weeks preceding the incident. Changes in naval deployments, aircraft movements, intelligence collection patterns, or diplomatic language can all provide context that helps explain why an event occurred when it did. From a purely operational standpoint, any use of force against Venezuelan military targets would require a careful balance between effectiveness and risk. Venezuela's air defense network, while not cutting edge by global standards, is still capable enough to impose real costs if underestimated. This means that any external military planning would prioritize minimizing exposure not just to aircraft, but to political fallout. This is why many analysts believe that if force was used, it would likely have involved standoff capabilities rather than direct penetration of heavily defended airspace. Standoff weapons allow strikes to be conducted from outside hostile radar and missile engagement zones, reducing risk while preserving plausible deniability. Such systems are designed to strike specific nodes, command centers, storage facilities, or infrastructure, rather than cause widespread destruction. It is also important to understand that modern military actions are rarely purely kinetic. Cyber operations, electronic warfare, and information operations often precede or accompany physical strikes. These tools can disrupt systems, degrade situational awareness, and create confusion without leaving visible damage. In some cases, what appears to be a conventional explosion may be the final stage of a much broader, largely invisible campaign. This brings us to the role of information control. In the digital age, controlling the narrative is almost as important as controlling the battle space. Governments know that public perception shapes political outcomes. Allowing uncertainty to persist can be a deliberate choice. Ambiguity forces adversaries to react cautiously, allies to seek clarification, and domestic audiences to wait for official interpretation. For Venezuela, managing internal perception is particularly important. Any acknowledgement of vulnerability carries domestic political consequences. Disputing claims, delaying confirmation, or framing events as accidents rather than attacks can serve internal stability goals. Regardless of the underlying cause, this does not necessarily indicate deception. It reflects the realities of governance under pressure. Similarly, U.S. officials face their own constraints. Publicly confirming military action carries legal, diplomatic, and strategic implications. Silence or carefully worded statements can preserve flexibility while avoiding unnecessary escalation. This is why official language in such situations tends to be precise, limited, and non-committal. Follow for continued updates and aviation-focused analysis as this situation develops.